Science, exercise, nutrition, health, energy, passion. 1 year, no beer. This is the 1 year no beer podcast, where you will find all the latest tips, tricks, and hacks for a way to live better.
Welcome to episode 2 of the 1 year no beer podcast. I am Rory Fairbairns.
And I'm Andy Ramage.
Very, very excited to be back in your ears and in your eyes.
Ears and eyes. Yes, it's a new format for us, getting used to actually being on the screen whilst podcasting.
YouTube. So if you were watching last week, you'll see that we were in a hotel room and...
We're still here.
Yeah.
We haven't been living here for the whole week. Believe us, we've just done 2 of these in a row.
Yeah, exactly. It's called...
I don't know.
It's called efficiency. That was the word I was looking
that's
for.
Us. That
efficiency.
Is us.
So I'm very excited to bring you this week's guest, a wee man from Ireland.
Our legend, Pat Divilly, has been a huge supporter actually of 1 year no beer since the very start. Really,
Yeah.
you know, he's been very active in the groups. We love him. He's actually part of our. In our members area, we did a webinar actually with Pat, didn't we? Do you remember? Which
we
was
did early on.
I think one of our best ever
webinars.
We had about
Most
500 people on it at the time. It's huge.
Yeah.
All about setting your goals, powering up your life, all the things you need to do.
He's
which
amazing.
Actually, funnily enough, if you do happen to join 1 year no beer, you'll get access to that.
Yeah.
It's probably a great time to look at that actually around now being early January.
Absolutely. So if you're just tuning in for the first time and you're currently on dry January and thinking, boring, dry January, then you haven't joined 1 year no beer yet.
Exactly, because this is where the fun stuff happens that's alcohol free, and it's not about locking yourself away or cancelling the social calendar. It's the very opposite.
Exactly.
And we'll show you exactly how to do that. And that's
Exactly.
what this podcast is about. That's what the community is about. That's what our book, the 28-Day Alcohol-Free Challenge, is all about.
There is 0 point in taking a break from alcohol for dry January and reaffirming those limiting beliefs that you need alcohol to have a good time, to be successful, to have fun, to relax, right? Which is what we've all been preconditioned. We've been conditioned since before we were old enough to even, I don't know, we were still in nappies and we were watching our aunties, our uncles, our family members, our friends celebrate, commiserate and congratulate with alcohol. And that has been wired into your brain. Now, a very clever thing called neuroplasticity, which I've no idea about, but Andy knows everything about, allows you to rewire your brain so that you don't need alcohol to have a good time. You don't need alcohol to have fun. You don't need alcohol to relax. And that's what we show you. We tackle your neuroplasticity.
Oh, look at that. Is it like slime or putty that the kids are going mad for? It sounds a bit like that.
I'm going to start taking bets on what words I can get into these podcasts.
Yeah, I know. I think you're doing well already. But also another really good thing to note about Dry Jan is this, right? And don't forget, you can't kid a kidder. Rue and I have been there, seen it, done it when it comes to alcohol and entertaining and all that sort of stuff. We know, because we were guilty of it, that lots of people will also take on a dry Jan, lock themselves away, bemoan how much they're having to give up and how dull it is, and exactly completely the wrong mindset, dreaming of Feb 1 when they can start drinking again, and then use that as an excuse, I've done a dry Jan, to get absolutely plastered for the next 11 months. Because it's okay, I've got control, I've got this thing under control. It's no problem to me because I can do a month off the booze. Yeah, right, you can, by locking yourself away and moping about and having a terrible time. And that's actually not demonstrating anything because you're
just
missing...
reaffirms those limiting beliefs.
Exactly.
It says, I need alcohol to
Exactly.
function normally.
So it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Totally.
Right, now I do need alcohol, otherwise my life's boring. When actually the opposite is true. And the only way you realise that is by making a first-hand experience, and that happens through throwing yourself into this challenge, being even more sociable in Jan, not cancelling the calendar, going out, doing all those things, getting fit, losing weight, eating well, creating this vibrant lifestyle. And that's what it's all about. And when that mindset shift happens, everything changes. And that's what's key.
You just don't want it anymore because it ruins your life goals.
Exactly.
Your
But
plans.
if you feel great after 28 days, why go back?
Our guest today, Pat Divilly, an amazing guy. He's been so supportive of us all the way through, and he really gets you to think about things differently, especially in fitness and diet and mindset. So now, without further ado, we'll get stuck into the Pat Divilly interview. Very excited to be joined by none other than Ireland's superhero, Pat Divilly. Pat, how are you doing?
I'm super.
You are a superhero.
I'm good, Roy. What's happening?
You've been very, very busy recently, haven't you? I've been seeing you very, very busy. We're gearing up for a Pat movement.
Yeah, lots happening again. I feel like I took a year off. I was traveling quite a bit and I was climbing mountains and doing my jiu-jitsu and everything else, but getting back on the hustle and lots of stuff going on, yeah. So getting set up for 2018.
I can't imagine anyone doesn't know who you are, but just in case we've got one or two people here listening who've never heard of Pat, give us a bit of background.
I'd say there's lots in the UK that don't know me yet, but hopefully they will in time. Long story short, I suppose, grew up with a passion for health and wellness. That was all I ever wanted to do, was be a gym owner. I went to college, studied nutrition, failed with my first couple of businesses, got fired from a few gyms where I worked, and moved back in with my parents about 5 years ago at 24, feeling like a failure. Got work in a pizza shop, and just to keep a bit of an interest in fitness, I started a small class on my local beach with 5 clients. And that just took off. I had 500 clients within a year, best-selling book. And now 5 years on, I've had 25,000 clients online. I opened a gym, sold that gym, did 3 best-selling books, do TV and radio all the time now in Ireland. And I do a lot of work now in personal development, so helping people in all areas get clear on where they're trying to go and help them get there. So that's a really quick snapshot. And we've done $250,000 for local charities, brought the biggest team ever to Tough Mudder. But it's all around kind of giving people a sense of belief and a sense of belonging.
Biggest team ever to Tough Mudder. I love that. Can we touch on that?
540 people we brought to Tough Mudder, which was cool. That was for raising money for cystic fibrosis in Ireland. It was a cause close to our hearts. When I ran my gym, we had a member whose daughter had CF, and we wanted to support that. And it was just an amazing campaign. We had people from all over the country join us, and there's actually a documentary on YouTube about that called PDF for CF. So, yeah.
That's awesome. That is really amazing. I love that. My brain is ticking about a similar idea, right? Absolutely love it. How can I steal that idea? No, brilliant. What you're up to now? I mean, I'm seeing lots of the mindset shifter, and I really want to talk about some of that stuff because if there's one thing we love at 1 Year No Beer, it is mindset shifting.
Yeah, I suppose, like I say, I got into fitness when I was a teenager, and around the same time I got fascinated with personal development and self-help and popular psychology, neuroscience, all that kind of stuff. So it's always been a passion of mine. And I think as I started working with more and more clients, you start to see patterns of some people succeed and other people struggle. And it's just something that, I was fascinated by. And I started to realize that, personal training or coaching is not just a case of giving someone a plan. The same way 1 Year No Beer is not just a case of telling someone to stop drinking. There's got to be, an understanding there of why we behave the way we behave, why we have certain thought processes and patterns and beliefs, and how we can kind of shift them. So that really became my obsession, I would say, over the last couple of years was figuring out, why have people ended up where they've ended up? Where do they want to go, and what do they need to change on a deeper level to get there? So that's looking at stories, looking at triggers, looking at beliefs. It's supporting people on their journey by really digging a bit deeper, I suppose, than the normal approach of throw a diet plan at someone and tell them to follow it. Yeah, I don't know. It's just helping people make sustainable changes, helping people put routines in place, helping people stay consistent, helping people feel like they're always winning and they're always on the right track. I see in the fitness industry, there's this kind of perpetual cycle for a lot of people where they'll sign up to a diet plan and they decide they're going to be miserable for 6 months following a diet plan so that someday they can step on the scales and feel good about themselves. And I wanted it to be that you would feel good about yourself along the journey. You would build confidence over time and you'd enjoy those 6 months. And then you'd step on the scale and it would just be an added bonus that you saw the number you wanted. So it's this idea that, everybody talks about life is about the journey and not the destination. But so many people are telling themselves, someday when I'm happy, someday when I'm confident, someday when I'm this, that, or the other. I'm all about let's start cultivating those feelings now by shifting our beliefs. And, it's going to bring about more success in the short term and the long term.
I mean, that's so fundamental to what we are trying to do as well, which is why I love your message and why I definitely wanted you on the podcast. I think behind all these addictions and the I guess the same processes are in play, or in part, with habits, and they're good and bad habits. You've got bad habits, drinking too much alcohol. You've got good habits, sticking to them and getting out of the gym, or having the life that you want. And actually, at a deeper level than that, you've got meaning, purpose, values, having confidence and self-worth, self-esteem. These are actually the things that you want to work on. And often with people, I find, and I'm sure you find this as well, is that to get down into that, you actually have to work in routines. Because when they start to apply basic routines or simple routines, that actually starts to affect self-worth. And then you get the opening up and real change.
Yeah, what I see is that, and this will apply to the 1 Year No Beer community as well as the fitness stuff, and any change really, is that the basic level of thinking is that if I want to get a new result, I just need to change my actions. So if I want to go alcohol free, I just need to stop drinking. If I want to get fit, I just need to eat better. If I want to make more money, I just need to work more. And then people become frustrated when they don't stay consistent, because they feel like a failure. They say, I know what to do and I can't do it. When you go a bit deeper, you realize that your results come from your actions, but your actions come from both your stories and your feelings. So that's really where the magic is. If you've got a story that I can never do alcohol free, I can never stay off the booze, then it doesn't matter how often you try. You're not going to stay, you're not going to be successful. My story in school was I wasn't academic, I wasn't clever, I wasn't smart. So I was never going to take the actions that someone who was academic, clever and smart would take. So really we need to get to the root of what are your stories that are running your life, and what are the beliefs that are running your life, and then just examining them and exploring them and finding new variations and new ways of looking at them.
Yeah, that's very powerful. I love that. And so if you're talking specifically about fitness and trying to get into a fitness routine, and perhaps procrastinating, and with this podcast coming out in mid-December, I'm guessing a lot of people are like, oh well, sod it, I'll get started in January. How do you start that journey, and how do you improve the exercise journey?
So I think this one insight could be a massive shift for everyone, and that is that most of us focus on perfection, and we try to get things perfect. And what happens is when we don't get it perfect, we feel like a failure. Perfection and trying to get everything perfect leads to overwhelm. And when we're overwhelmed, we're stressed. And when we're stressed, we don't take action. So on the flip side of that, when we focus on progress, we take action and we build confidence, and that builds momentum. So my biggest thing I would say to people is that if you find yourself overwhelmed or chasing perfection, it's because you're comparing yourself to other people. You're comparing yourself to someone who's on a different journey. You're comparing yourself to someone who may have trained for years longer than you. So my thing is, if you want to be successful with your fitness, you just need to take stock of where you are, and you need to get a little bit better every day. And that might sound like the most simple thing in the world, but if I can get 1% better every day, it doesn't matter what anyone else does. I just need to focus on myself. It's as simple as that. It's a growing project. And if the focus is on small improvements over who I was yesterday, then I'm winning every day, or I can win every day.
Absolutely.
If the focus is on 6 months from now, then I'll be 12 stone and I'll feel as good as the girl next to me, then we're going to be a failure forever. So just be better today than you were yesterday, and be better tomorrow than you were today. And within 3 months, you'll be a very different person in any area of life. So get away from competing with other people and just start competing with who you were yesterday, I think is my biggest tip.
I love that. You came on our podcast, or Andy came on your podcast and convinced you to do a period of alcohol free, and ended up being 10 months booze free?
Yeah, 10 months. I was 30 a couple of weeks ago, so I had a few beers a couple of weeks after my 30th, and it was a great experience. I think I wanted public accountability. I had said a lot of times I was going to take a break from the beer, but I hadn't really been on the social scene that much in a while, and I went out and I just couldn't handle the crowds and the busyness and the drunkenness. And if that was me a year before, I would have said, right, I'm going to get hammered so I feel more comfortable in this environment. That was my approach. If I felt socially anxious, I would stoop to that, not stoop to that level, but I would get myself to that level where I would feel accepted, or I would feel comfortable. Whereas now my approach is, don't put yourself in environments where you don't feel comfortable. That was the biggest shift for me, was recognizing that, sometimes if you're over drinking, if you're drinking to escape or to sedate. It's because you don't want to be in that environment or you don't want to be around those people. So I started paying more attention to that, put myself in environments where I was happier, put myself around people that made me happier. And that was a big shift for me. But yeah, it's completely different going back to it now. I can enjoy, a glass of wine or a couple of beers, and I'm not doing it to escape stress or to reward myself. I'm doing it because I just enjoy a glass of wine with dinner, and it's a much better angle it's coming from. Same thing I would tell people with food. The food is not good or bad. It's just who you are when you're having the food. Are you eating certain foods to escape how you feel? Are you eating certain foods to emotionally eat? Or are you eating it because you enjoy it and it's a part of your life?
Yeah, that's really key. Interesting. Just carrying on for that about foods there. There's so much conflicting advice about what to eat and what not to eat. And I was interviewing Naveen Jain last night, and he was saying that he believes everything is in the gut. In fact, he was of the belief that our gut is basically who we are, and our body and mind are just the carrier, if you like, is what we're going to discover. But he was saying there's no diet which is the same, no two diets which are the same for the same person, and the diet that's right for you now might not be the diet right for you in 3 to 6 months' time because of your gut. I'm just interested to hear a bit of download from you and about what you think is a nutritious diet, and especially around about your experience of going alcohol-free, what you think we should be focusing on food-wise.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote a book on paleo a couple of years ago because paleo is the closest thing I have found to something that works for, the majority. In my case, I talk about 5 years ago, I started on the local beach with 5 clients. And at that time, I was writing specific plans for everyone. And then within a few months, I had a few hundred clients, and I wasn't in that position anymore. And I had to find something that kind of ticked all the boxes for the majority. There's going to be exceptions to the rule. There's going to be medical conditions here and there. There's going to be gut problems here and there. But my core, thinking around nutrition is, focus on hydration first. So 2.5 liters of water minimum a day. And then if 80% of your foods can come from single ingredient foods, you're going to be doing pretty good. And then 20%, whatever you want. That's a pretty good starting point. So, the single ingredient food piece is the simple idea that, a chicken breast contains chicken. A chicken Kiev contains chicken and 100 other ingredients. 50 years ago, 60 years ago, our grandparents didn't eat foods that had additives, preservatives, emulsifiers, chemicals. Most of what we eat now has all those things. And that causes gut issues. And obviously the gut is the second brain. The two things are linked. There's a lot of mental health issues due to gut problems. There's a lot of all sorts of issues due to gut problems. But the start of healing the gut, I think, is cutting out a lot of those processed foods.
What do you think of intermittent fasting? Because that is what got me down to 10.6% body fat. It was making those. So what do you think of intermittent fasting?
Yeah, we started a new online course a couple of weeks ago. We had 450 people starting off. The biggest, for the first 2 weeks, that was the only change we made was we encouraged intermittent fasting, and we said you can eat whatever you want. Just practice the intermittent fast. And it was just, we're forming healthy habits consistently over time, but it works so well for people because you're just taking away any overwhelm. You're taking away the stress.
Just very quickly explain what it is.
So the principle behind the intermittent fasting will be that typically it's an 8-hour window where you get most of your meals in, and then you'd have a 16-hour fast. You're going to be asleep 8 of those hours, so it's not really that long where you're awake and you're not eating. But traditionally, they said small meals consistently throughout the day. This is kind of in counter to that. So the thinking is that if you give your body a break from digestion, it doesn't have to be digesting food all the time. It can do other things. Your insulin levels can drop, so your growth hormone is going to come up, and you're going to get benefits from that in the way you look, in the way you feel, in the way you move. They've done studies where they'll show 2 groups. The first group will get 2,000 calories where they eat the meals throughout the day. The second group get the exact same foods, quantities, and calories, but they eat it in an 8-hour window. And the 8-hour window group will lose more fat, again, due to, the hormonal response of taking a 16-hour fast. So yeah, it works really well. I think for people to say they're going to get all their meals in between, say, 10 a.m. and 6 p.m., then they don't have to think in the evenings. They don't have to be thinking about what should I eat or shouldn't eat or should I not. It's just, here's an idea. If you think of a vegan going to a restaurant, think of Andy going to a restaurant. He doesn't have to fight himself every time thinking, oh, should I have meat or should I not? Because he's got a rule that he doesn't eat meat. For most of us, we go to a restaurant and we're trying to eat healthy, but we don't have a set rule. We don't have a solid rule. So we'll battle with that all the time. And I think intermittent fasting gives people a rule. It's like, okay, well, I stop eating at 7, so I'm not going to snack in the evenings. And it makes it a lot easier. It's even just a psychological thing.
Interesting. So you think eat whatever you want?
No, we tried a different approach with this current group that we're running. We said oftentimes we'll try to encourage people to go as close to paleo as they can, but that can be overwhelming for people. So we said this time, first 2 weeks, we want you to keep a food diary just to get awareness around what you're currently eating. We want you to take 2.5 liters of water a day, and we want you to intermittent fast. And then 2 weeks in, we said, okay, we want you to start adding a protein source to each meal and a source of greens to each meal on week 4. And eventually we're going to try and move people close enough to paleo with 20% of their foods being whatever they want.
I'm in. I've been doing a bit of intermittent fasting, but not that well orchestrated. I just wanted to get back into it. Clearly, for my men's health photo shoot in January.
Oh, really?
No, but you've got to think positively. So talking of which, visualizations. Actually, this is a great topic. There's loads of chat over it. I mean, if I think about the iterations of visualizations from the Science of Getting Rich, which I read when I was 12 years old, about manifesting, and then we had The Secret. The Secret was very popular about just anything you think about, you can literally make. And I've been trying to focus on a giant steak pie for ages, but it's never materialized. How much of that is important and affects? And
yeah, so the way I sort of look at this is that particularly in the world we live in now, where there's just so much going on around us between social media, mass media, there's colors, there's sounds, there's a million, billion, trillion things going on around us, advertising, that we can't possibly focus on everything. But oftentimes our energy is being dispersed in every direction. So you think about a sprinkler that spits water in 100 different directions. It's lightly sprinkling a lot of water all over the place. And for us, that's oftentimes how we are. We're trying to distribute our energy in every direction. We're trying to please everyone. We're trying to think about 100 different things. The idea for visualization, to me, is that you really focus on what you want, and you take all that water from the sprinkler that's going a million directions, and you start directing it in a few different key areas, and suddenly you've got a power hose that's going to get you there much faster. It's going to be a lot more powerful. And so that's kind of how simple I think it is. It's taking your energy, which has been dispersed everywhere, trying to be everything to everyone, trying to impress everyone, trying to keep everyone happy, trying to do a million different things. And you say, look, here's the 4, 5, 6 things that are important to me right now. I'm going to think about them. And as I think about them, I'm going to see more stimulus in my environment that supports that. So simple example, you think about going on holiday to Egypt, walk down the street, you're probably more likely to see a poster in a travel agent that says, here's a deal for Egypt. So I don't know if that makes sense, but that's kind of my thinking is, it's just that, you need a bit of a map for your life, and visualization is that means of finding a map, because everything is out there, but you'll only see what you focus on.
I love it. And actually, I think you've got a step before that, because I think the step before the visualization is journaling. Am I right?
Oh, I'm the biggest journaling fan in the world. We've been, I love it. So the thinking with journaling is, we're always looking outside of ourselves. And I came to see this, like yourself, I was reading those self-help books from the age of 12 or 13, and read hundreds of books. I've gone on courses and seminars and retreats all over the world. I've worked with coaches and mentors, got a lot of value from them all. And I'm a big believer in learning from other people. But there comes a time where I think you need to get to know yourself more. We spend so much time looking outward and very little time looking inward. And the process of journaling is to get a pen and paper and start writing down certain things that matter to you. So, I do a journaling course, 30-day course online that helps facilitate it for people. But it's simply, the idea that if you want a good relationship with your wife or your partner, or you want a good relationship with anyone, you've got to spend time with them, you've got to be present with them, and you've got to get to know them on a deeper level. And then if you want a great relationship with yourself, it's kind of the same thing. Spend time with yourself, be present with yourself where you don't have your phone in your hand, and get to know yourself by asking questions you haven't looked at before. So it's simple things. You could start with pen and paper and say, what would my life look like in 12 months if I was 100% happy? Or what were 3 of my happiest days in recent memory, which is going to kind of show you what's important to you. This is where great ideas start, is just pen and paper and freedom and space. Again, when you think about mindfulness or intention, it's where there's there's no space at the moment if you're super busy and you don't take any time for you and you're attached and plugged into your phone or your laptop. As soon as you take a half an hour away from that and get pen and paper, you're creating space to open up new possibilities, and you can distance yourself a bit from your current patterns and thoughts and beliefs and start to form new thoughts and beliefs. So that's kind of I love journaling.
The thing is, I love having you on the pod. I just love talking to you because I'm sitting here writing notes down, not for the podcast, not for the audience, but for me. And I'm like, the thing is, journaling, I know, yes, but the hardest thing, and I really want to challenge you. I'm going to give you a call back when you've got kids, especially kids on, 2 kids under the age of 4, and then I want to see how you're getting on with your journaling. And just because, and I know you could say that's an excuse, and yes, you're right, it is, and many of it is, it sets back this, it sets back that, and so I always see myself as, I'd love to be 80% man, but it's probably slightly less that I actually achieve whatever my goals are. But journaling is one thing I have procrastinated about a lot. I started the best self journal, and I really love it. It just is quite complicated. And it's sitting at the front, and I keep saying to myself, I need to kick it back up. So I'm going to do that. And I think the biggest thing for me is space, giving myself the space to ask those important questions. If I can think about the big issues in my life right now, and I wake up in the morning, and the previous night I've written down, I don't know how I'm going to achieve this, or I don't know how I'm going to do that. And I wake up in the morning and I take half an hour to myself to think about that. I think I could have some massive shifts. So I'm going to definitely report back. And if anybody wanted to do your journaling course, where would they find out about that?
I'm not very organized. patdivilly.com/confidence. And I will say this on that, Rory, because I can resonate with what you're saying in terms of I've heard of the power of meditation for so many years, and I've just struggled with it all the time. And it took me a long time to find, I do the Wim Hof breathing now, and that works for me. So I think, journaling is the idea of just taking time for yourself and kind of questioning your stories and stuff like that. It doesn't have to look a certain way. It doesn't have to be a daily thing. And just, the same way you guys lower the barrier for people to start their alcohol-free journey, I would lower the barrier for yourself, and don't be putting pressure on yourself. It could be the case of saying, once a week for a half an hour, I'm going to get pen and paper, and I'm going to schedule that to my diary with my PA so that it's scheduled. And that's my starting point. Byron Katie does phenomenal stuff, thework.com. She's got a load of free resources there. That's a different way of journaling. Ryan Holiday, I just got his new book. It's the Daily Stoic Journal. It's just about 4 or 5 lines a day, you write. So it's just a case of finding a process that works.
I saw somebody speak recently, and they said that even a single word written in my journal was considered a win. And if you break down the habit in terms of, as long as I do it every day, that was his way of going around it. But even if it's one word, it's still a win.
Well, here's a tip or an idea. This is, again, something from one of our online courses the guys are going through at the moment. We get the guys doing an affirmation of intention every day, where they type it into the group, and it's something that's living. So what I mean by that is that rather than saying, I'll be happy when I'm 12 stone, or I'll have achieved my goal when I'm 12 stone, we get them to do something that's kind of like my one for life that I write down every day is, every day I do the simple things that make me better. And that reminds me what's important. Every day I do the simple things that make me better. Every day I do the simple things that make me better. It's like those old affirmations of every day and every way I'm getting better and better. We have clients that say, every day I'm connecting more with my kids. Every day I'm feeling healthier. Every day I'm making better food choices. And it's just reminding them it's not about where you're going to be in 3 months. It's about what you do today, and that's going to take you where you want to be in 3 months. So that could be your little journaling exercise.
I love that. I'm doing that. Amazing insights. Thank you very much. If somebody was thinking, right, I've got this alcohol thing under control, but I haven't really got my fitness and diet under control, Pat, what are your top tips for getting healthy routines nailed down?
Okay, yeah. So when it comes to training, I think the most important thing is you find something you enjoy that you can stay consistent with. So I grew up in gyms, and I loved it for years, but then I got very bored of it, and I can't go to the gym anymore. So I tried to force myself into the gym for the last couple of years, but it just wasn't happening consistently. However, I found jiu-jitsu about 1.5 years ago, and you can't keep me away from that. So it's find something you love. I think for most people, something social is going to be beneficial. So the camaraderie that comes with being part of a team is something I really enjoy. So it doesn't need to look a certain way. It doesn't need to be the gym. It doesn't need to be HIIT workouts. It doesn't need to be, anything. It just needs to be something you enjoy and you want to do. I feel like we've got enough stress in our life already without putting yourself in a more stressful environment if you don't like the gym. That would be the training advice. Find something you enjoy and just do it. Nutrition advice would be pick one habit and get it in place so that you can build confidence on that one habit, then add another habit. So drink 2.5 liters of water every day for the next month. Once you're doing that, you'll feel more confident. Then you add something new. Do that for a month, then you add something new. Rather than trying to do 100 things today.
Trying to do everything at the same time, which is me.
Yeah. And you know what happens then is you do that on Monday, Tuesday, you do something wrong by Wednesday, and it's like, right, one of my tires on the car is flat, so I'm going to puncture all of the other 3. I'm going to throw it all out the window. That's the way we operate. That's how I operate anyway. I'm like,
exactly. Toys out of pram.
Yeah. So the higher you set the barrier for yourself, or the fence for yourself, the harder it's going to be. So I would say, pick 1 or 2 habits at a time. Give yourself 2 weeks. Get consistent with them. That builds confidence. When you build confidence, you want to do more. When you try to do too much too quick, the opposite is true. You feel bad about yourself. You feel like a failure. Reinstate the story that I never stay consistent with anything.
Fantastic. Pat, thank you very much for coming on the podcast. So good to have you on, and we'll definitely get you back again very soon. For anyone who wants to find you, where do they find you? How do they keep in touch, etc.?
PatDivilly.com is the website with all the programs and events. And then I'm on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn. I'm on all that stuff.
Find him everywhere and he will change your life. Your book, actually, Upgrade Your Life. It did upgrade my life. And of course, last time I saw you, we were doing an extreme event with Ollie Ollerton at Breakpoint. And we were under heavy gunfire and gagged and bagged and thrown into the back of transit vans and tortured. And that was amazing fun, wasn't it?
That was pretty cool. I presume Ollie's going to be on the podcast soon.
Definitely get Ollie back for sure. I'll try and abuse him in ways he abused me that day. It was tough. Anyway, great to see you again, Pat. We'll catch up soon.
Pat, full of stuff in there in the Pat interview. Absolutely love it. Every time we have him on, we'll definitely have him on again. Thank you. If you haven't checked out Pat's stuff yet, then Google him. He's everywhere. Pat Divilly, Divilly. Thank you so much for tuning into the 1 Year No Beer podcast. As always, reviews extremely helpful. If you get 5 minutes, jump onto iTunes, leave us a 5-star review. That means that more people get to listen to it, and we will reach our goal of 2018 of impacting 1 million people.
1 million.
With your help. See you next week.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the 1 Year No Beer podcast. For a full list of episodes and to join in the challenge yourself, head on over to oneyearnobeer.com. oneyearnobeer.com.